Tired of the hype about living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Your Ultimate Life, the podcast that I created just to help you create a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy by serving with your life experience, your divine gifts, and the skills that you already have. Today I have a special guest, Rachel Wayte. Rachel, welcome to the show.
Helen, thank you. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, I am so excited that you're here with me, and I'm going to start my little timer. It's not exact, but I have to run it. So I kind of know what we're doing in terms of time.
Perfect.
Bless your heart. So we've had the chance to know each other for a little while, and I don't give introductions because what you do and who you are will be revealed as we go along. So I want to start with a question, and I don't want you to be modest. I would like you to share with me, how does Rachel choose to add good to the world?
I'm just going to let that sink in a moment. So that is such a great question. I choose to show good to the world by showing up as myself. And I know that might sound like a small thing, but actually having that belief and intention of I'm not scared to be who I am. I'm not scared to show up in my purpose and in my passion and in my mission. I show up as myself, sharing my gifts, my abilities with my clients, with the world. And I believe in doing that, I'm therefore giving permission to other people to do the same thing and help them feel like, do you know what? It's okay to be me. It's safe to be me. It's safe to share my voice. It's safe to believe in myself. It's safe to have dreams. It's safe to have goals. So ultimately, that's how I share myself with the world, being me.
So why is it, there's lots of ways people could hear that.
Yeah.
One of them is, well, who are you? Or who's anybody? You can just show up and be you, and that's supposed to be cool. They can sort of take a cynical view of it like that.
Yeah.
And yet I believe, and I think you do too, and I want you to talk about it for a sec, that showing up naked, as it were, but showing up with the truth of your life on your sleeve, that's actually how we can be most valuable in the world. Do you believe that?
Completely. I so believe that, because I believe for a long time, up until I was probably 40, I wasn't showing up as me. And so therefore I was holding myself back. I was fearful. I was scared about things. I was limiting myself. And I think giving yourself permission to own your vulnerabilities and overcome them and believe in yourself, and that you sort of have you are important, and that you do matter, and that there is a reason that you are here, is life-changing, actually, on quite a deep level, if you allow yourself to really sort of feel what that actually could mean for you.
So in the first place, I think you've hit two things that are really important. One is permission to be yourself and be yourself fully and freely is life-changing for you. Oh, gee, I'm finally free. I can do what I want. And as a subsidiary, and actually more important point, that is the best thing that you can give me, and me standing in as a proxy for not only the listeners, but anybody in your orbit. And so there's two pieces. One, it takes the chains off of us to not be afraid to just be alive and be truthful and be transparent and vulnerable. But it's actually the best service we can do for others. Would you agree with that?
Totally.
So
absolutely.
Why so it's not just me. I mean, we've felt fear, every single one of you listening on, you felt fear, and I shouldn't be this, and I'm supposed to sandwich myself into some form or whatever. But releasing that not only is freedom for you, but it's valuable for others. And I want you to tell us why.
Why is it valuable for ourselves, and why is it valuable for others?
Well, we know why it's valuable, I think, for ourselves. But yeah, mostly I'm thinking about how come that is the greatest service we can do for others?
Okay. Wow. I feel like it's the greatest service we can do for others because it almost like it gives you permission to be I feel like it liberates us. It liberates other people. It creates it gets people out of this it gives people options, and it makes people think, do you know what? I mean, who knows, people will be listening in from all over. And sometimes, we can feel quite stuck in our lives, and we can feel like, oh, I don't have any options. I don't know how to get out of this situation. This is where I've got these dreams, but I don't think it's possible. We can have all these doubts. We can have all these fears. We can have all these beliefs about ourselves. And I think if we show up and show others that actually there is a way forwards, there is a different way to see this. We aren't stuck. We aren't restricted. There are options. There are possibilities. You can do this. You can do that. The more of us who show up and show that side of things, the more change we will see in other people's lives. But then also a big shift we will see generally in the world is how I see it.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, we can see a lot of stuff around that restricts us, and I think sometimes we can focus too much on the negative, too much on what's going wrong, too much on the doom and gloom. But actually, if there's more of us like you and I, Kellen, and other people that are on your podcast and other people in our sphere showing people that there's a different way and we don't have to see the world that way, that's life-changing.
It is. And I just want to be really clear, and I'll just say something I believe, and you can disagree with it if you want. I think that if you choose to discover and serve and deliver just the most authentic and valuable version of yourself, learning from all the things that have happened before, that you not only can have the most fun, but you can also have the biggest impact and make the most money.
Yes.
Do you believe that?
I do, yes. I'd say it's taking me a long time to get to that point and to get to that belief, because I think a lot of my belief system had probably been grounded in there are limitations. You shouldn't have too much money. You don't expect too much of life. And I've had to sort of get through all that to get to that point and realize actually having money is a wonderful thing, because how much can you do for others by having money? So actually we should want money, and it's not a bad thing to want it and have lots of it. But it's taken me a long time to get to that point and really understand and feel and believe that.
So as you sit here right now, can you say gleefully and joyfully you want boatloads of cash?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
If you'd have asked me a few years ago, maybe not. But right now I'm like, bring it on.
All right. And the thing is money follows value. And so if being your honest self and being on a growth journey and sharing that with the world is the most valuable thing we can do, the most fun, and we can have the biggest impact, and it creates this money, then permission to do that and wanting that for the purpose of growth is the most important thing we can do.
Yeah. And we should all feel okay to say, that's what I want too. And it's okay for me to want that.
So you said, a few years ago, this, that, and the other, and alluded to, gee, it wasn't always this way, which implies there's been a path of growth. Yes. And you didn't fall up this mountain, because nobody falls up a mountain.
No.
So tell me a little bit about the journey, the work, the setbacks, the resilience. How did you get where you are? Okay.
Well, first of all, because explain to your listeners. So now I would classify myself as a sound and energy healer. Okay. That is sort of like, if I'm going to define it, that's what I do. On a very quite high level work with it. But how I got here is a really interesting journey. So I actually I trained to be I live over in the UK, by the way, in case people are wondering where the accent's from. I trained to be an opera singer. So that was what I did in my mid to late 20s, early 30s. And oh, I thought at that time, oh, that's going to be my life. I'm going to be an opera singer. But actually, the more I spent in that world, the more I retreated. I found being permanently sort of like judged and analyzed, and is my voice good enough, and does it sound right, and being sort of like in the audition process at that time in my early 20s. I didn't have the resilience to accept the rejection that kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. And I also found the world that I was in to be quite what's the word? It wasn't very nurturing, let's put it that way. And so what happened to me was I actually shrunk. My energy shrunk, my belief in myself shrunk. I came out thinking, I'm terrible. I'm no good at this. And the only way for me to protect myself from being rejected by the world, rejected anymore, people telling me that I'm not good enough, which is then what a very strong belief that I had about myself, was to just shut it all down. So I remember one day deciding, that's it, I'm done. I am never singing again. I'm never using this voice. I'm going to just literally wrap it up, put it in a box and put it over here and almost say thanks for having that part in my life, but it's over. I'm done. And I'm not opening that box. It was too painful. So then I went into, okay, so this is my early 30s now. What am I going to do with my life? So I did work for a time in the corporate world, which I found to be another place that was quite difficult for me, quite overwhelming. A lot of unhappy people, a lot of people who were quite stressed, a lot of pressure, and that ultimately ended up in me realizing this wasn't where I was meant to be. And so during that time, I actually had to navigate a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. And I didn't know anything about energy at the time or anything about what I currently do. And I actually started, which is really quite scary, and maybe this has happened to some people, I actually started having panic attacks in my car whilst I was driving to work. So much my body was saying, you don't want to go here, but I didn't understand what was going on. I would sometimes have to have panic attacks in my car driving to work. So it got to the point where I realized this is really not a healthy place for me to be. This isn't where I'm meant to be. So, we're talking like early to mid 30s now. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with my life? I left that world. I trained actually to be a therapist, which was ultimately to help me sort of like deal with what was going on with me. But I also realized that I actually wanted to be able to help others. I saw that a lot of people weren't happy, that a lot of people were stressed. And so I trained to be a therapist, a hands-on therapist. I trained to be a massage therapist. And ran my business for quite a long time. But ultimately, that was sort of like me in a room on my own, having this wonderful impact on the clients that I was seeing. But it got to the point where I turned 40, where I realized, hold on a sec, there is so much more of me that wants to come out. There's much more impact that I want to have. And me just on my own in this room isn't going to have that. So I then, at that point, had to overcome a lot of my own, overcome the fear that I had around being seen, belief about myself that actually I mattered and I had a bigger purpose. So there was a real dip in that point in my life where I actually felt quite down. I actually felt quite depressed, and I had to really overcome that. And then once I'd got through that and realized, do you know what? There's more that I'm meant to grow into. It was like this light bulb moment turned on, and I recognized that I had a lot of what I would call gifts that I had been burying and suppressing. And once I said, okay, I'm going to let those out, quite soon after that, I started working in a very different way with my clients, where I would be able to really help them release from their own emotions, their own traumas, their own limiting beliefs, anything that was capping them from growing. I could see what that was and really help them clear that out of their energy, out of their systems. And the most beautiful thing happened one day, and this is how it ties all the way back to the singing, was that one day I was with a client and I just knew in that moment to help her to clear what was going on, I needed to sing vibrations to her. And that might sound quite strange to some people, but to me, it felt absolutely normal because it was almost like my gifts were coming back. And when I sang to her, it was like this moment of everything made sense of sort of like, this is why I had to learn to sing. This is why I had to get myself to this point. This is why I had to overcome all of my own fears and doubts so that I could let this gift out and not be afraid to do that. And that was about 8 years ago.
You said something I want to have you explain just a little bit more. When you had that deep, I'll call it depression, but that moment of discovery, people have that. You're going to have it. You listeners, you're going to have it whenever you've failed, or especially if you failed over and over again, spectacularly and all the rest.
Yep.
And you said, I had to get past that. What did you do? How did you get help? Or did you get help? How did you get help to get started, to have the courage and the perseverance to get past that?
It happened. There were several ways that it happened. So first, it was really interesting actually, and I always honor my husband in this moment because there were days where I'd just be in tears. There would be days where I would just be like, we'd be going around in circles, and I'd be like, I want things to change. And I think what I was doing at that point in my life was waiting for an external factor to come in and sort me out. I was waiting for someone to come and rescue me. I was waiting for, it was almost like I didn't have I was waiting for the answer to come to me. And then actually what my husband said to me one day in the kitchen, we were in the kitchen, we were talking about it. And he said to me, but Rachel, do you really want to change? Because from where I'm standing, it doesn't seem like it. And I know that may sound harsh, but it made me realize that, we were going around in circles and I was kept sort of feeling like I was the victim and that I couldn't do anything about it. And I was stuck. And then when he said that, it flipped something in me. And I thought, hold on a second. If there's any way to create change in this, it has to begin with me. And I have the power to do that. And when he said that, it flipped something. And I thought, okay. And it made me think, okay, well, let's just focus on what I can do about this. So initially, I just did small things like giving myself time in the morning to do some meditation. That really helped. I asked for guidance and I asked for support. I got myself a coach and a mentor, and that really helped me. And then bit by bit, things changed because ultimately I realized that I could do something about it and I didn't have to stay victim to it.
I love that, and I want to thank you for sharing that because I want people to hear this. This show and all my guests are about creating the life you love, purpose, prosperity, and joy. And you just said a key thing, which is nothing's going to happen until you do, until you move. Nobody's coming. Nobody's going to come and rescue you, and nobody can stop you is the other side of that coin.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think we can get help, can't we? We can get guidance, we can get people to support us through it, but ultimately no one can fix us. We have to somehow do that part ourselves. And it can take time, it can be difficult, and we have to honor the fact that we have emotions and some days are easier than others. But I think the other thing that really helped me was to understand that my emotions weren't me. So if I was feeling really low, or, sometimes when you feel really low, you feel awful in your body, can't you? And you can feel like, oh, there's just no way out of it. And what really helped me to understand was that actually all I was experiencing really was an energy, was an emotion that was just basically stuck in my body. And if I gave myself, rather than trying to bury it or think it was a bad thing or that I shouldn't be feeling it or that, I should try and suppress it, by giving myself permission to totally feel it without trying to go into the story of it and hold on to it, I was just like, this is what I'm feeling. It doesn't feel great right now, but I'm going to give myself permission to feel it. By doing that, you're actually freeing yourself from it. And the emotion has given first of all, it's honored and it's recognized. And actually, it can move on from your body. It doesn't stay stuck.
That
Does that make
is
sense?
folks listening to this, I want you to understand how powerful that is. She said several things all wrapped into one. You're going to feel different things. Feeling stuff is a collection of neurotransmitters that your body creates, and it creates those when you believe a thing. And when you feel a thing, don't fight with it. Don't get mad at it. Don't blame it. Don't look at blames. Just feel what you feel and then let it go. Allow it, honor it, and then it will pass. And the reason you can say that is because neurotransmitters process just like alcohol does. So you drink, and it takes an hour to whatever the number is. And I don't drink anymore because of other things, long history. But it takes time to process, and your neurotransmitters will process. So leave it alone and let just be there.
Yeah.
And then make some choices about what you want to think about and believe, because that set of beliefs will create another set of neurotransmitters and therefore another physical feeling in your body.
Yeah. And I think what happens sometimes is, we feel these feelings, say we feel bad, and you think, oh, I shouldn't be feeling that. That's not good. I'll try and feel this. I'll try and think positive thoughts. And I get that, and I understand that, and that does help. But I think sometimes first we need to create space for that positivity to come in. So we need to give that emotion, the energy, the chance to be there and move on. So then you've got the space to bring in the new emotion, the new feelings, the new beliefs that you want to have.
Yes, thank you, because those feelings will process and go away on their own. Just don't get into a fight with an intellectual or emotional fight, because you're going to lose every time. Because the energy of fighting reinforces the negative emotion.
Yes, exactly.
So if you go to war with that, you're going to lose every time.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
so
Can I say one other thing? There's just one other thing. I think sometimes, especially if we're feeling those emotions of anger or resentment, sometimes we can really get caught up in, well, the other person said this and the other person said that, and it's their fault, and I'm going to stay angry because I'm not going to let this go. But you're just holding yourself captive to that, prisoner to that in a way. And I think if you can, honor that you're feeling that, but not go into the he said this, she said that, because that just takes you back down in the spiral of feeling bad.
It does. And I love that. And that's like saying, holding a grudge is like drinking poison and waiting for the other guy to die.
Yes.
And not going to happen. All right. So thank you for that little detour about how you got there, because what you need to know, all of you, is you're not alone, and there is a way out, and you're the only one that can walk the path, even if you have to go get a boatload of help from different sources. So you discovered that 8 years ago. You sang to the lady, and it made a difference for you. And then walk me from there to where you realize and are more realizing the true power of this gift, which was to be expressed this way and not that way.
Yeah. So first of all, I recognized it to be a gift, because when I let my voice out in that way, I felt so free and so what do I say? I felt free and liberated, that I knew that this was what I was meant to do. And so from that moment, it was like, I just did, for a little while, it was hard for me to talk about it, because I was very much like, well, what will people think? What will they say? How will they perceive this? But what I realized, and maybe this will help your listeners, is in what was growing stronger, my desire for bringing forth this gift and being seen and letting this out in the world was getting so much stronger than the fear that was holding me back. I couldn't stop it anymore. To stop it would have been to suppress myself. So everything just started to unfold a lot quicker. I stopped just being me on my own in a room. I made a lot of connections with people all over the world. And I realized that not only could I take this from one to many, I could do this work online as well. So I suddenly built a business that was global. So I was working with people faced online, and then I discovered that actually this worked, whether I was working with one person or whether I was working with fronts of groups of people. So I have done many workshops. I've done many live sort of like sessions where I might be me here, but I'll be delivering to hundreds of people. And the feedback that I get from that, when people just tune in and they listen and they allow themselves to receive the vibrations and the words that I share, every single person has their own experience from it. And so it made me see that this could have such a ripple out in the world, because I can be me, but I can be delivering to hundreds or thousands of people, and they're going to receive what they need from listening, from allowing themselves to hear and receive the vibrations that come from my voice.
One of the things you said that I think is so interesting is, interesting is the wrong word, powerful, truthful and powerful is this. And before I say it, if a speaker speaks, each person in the audience is going to hear whatever they hear through the lenses of life that they wear.
Yes.
And because they can't do anything else. People say, oh, you don't see life the way it is, you see life the way you are. Well, duh, you can't see it any other way, because that's all that you have is those lenses. And so when a speaker speaks, it's not weird to think, oh, everybody hears whatever they hear. It's no different when you sing and you provide the energy that flows through you to provide. I'm going to hear it directly as through my own life lenses and experience. And it's going to be either divided or multiplied by my willingness to be present and allow the truth of that message, spoken or sung, to come into my heart.
Wow. That I had to take a deep breath as you said that. And I think that's so true. I think you're right. There is a sense of, some people will just receive it immediately because they're so ready for it. Yet with others, like you said, it can take time, because sometimes it's hard to allow, isn't it? Because if we allow, we start thinking, well, if I, that's almost like opening the can of worms, isn't it? And if I allow and I let things out, what does that mean for my life? So it can be quite daunting sometimes for people to just allow, because it means that change is going to happen, which is a great thing. But sometimes when we are where we are, it feels safe, and the unknown can feel scary.
Well, people argue for their limitations all the time. And if you're married to your excuses, or you love being in the victim mindset, or, in the pool of learned helplessness, addiction to mediocrity is the unholy trinity in my mind. If you're comfortable there, and the blaming and all the stuff that goes on in that disempowering state, allowing for, number one, the truth that something, if you let it in, can change, is a scary thing by itself. And then not only allowing for the possibility, but then allowing the message, whether it's spoken or sung, the vibrations, to do something to you, because the notes themselves are just notes.
Yeah.
And we are connected in that energetic way, and sound is sound. And so someone's willingness to allow the possibility that it might change them, which is opening the door, and then to just let it be, so that you can experience the truth, whatever that might be, that comes into you, which will be different for every person, because the chamber of their heart into which it goes is so different.
And it's so true. I see it all the time with the groups that I work with. I'll do the same session, the same healing. They'll all have completely different experiences, because they, like you said, they are their own vessel. They are their own body. And so they experience it how they need to experience it. And it will be different for every single person, which is magical in a way.
It's completely magical. And you know what we're discovering? So let's back. Well, what we're discovering is this energetic connection that holds everything together. Like the vibration and frequency of love is what holds the world, the universe together. And you know that because as soon as discord, hate, fear, and other things are introduced, it's divisive and blows stuff up. And the more we dive into that truth, the more truthful it becomes. And sometimes it can be scary, because it feels like, and we don't know anything about this crap. Oh no, it's
Yes.
scary like that. Yeah, I know the measurements and the science we pretend is so holy, and the truth is that's science too. It's just a bunch of stuff we haven't figured out at all how it works yet.
Yes.
And so, we're scared of it. Why do you think we live in a world that is so closed, so abrasive?
Yeah.
Like we've created a world that is so tuned to pushing down gifts, to pushing away these things, to keep people in a box, to be fearful, to be inauthentic, to fit in somebody else's story. Why do we live in that world?
Wow, that's another question. Why do we live in that world? I think it's conditioning, isn't it? It's what we've seen, it's what we've been told, it's what's been programmed through the generations that this is what's possible. And I think it takes a strong and brave person to realize that that isn't the truth, and we don't have to live in that world. And in a hopeful way, I feel that there is more and more and more and more of us who recognize we don't have to live in that world anymore. And that's, in a way, brings me hope that it's not always going to stay like that. It feels like that currently where we are right now in 2025. It can feel like we can see there's quite a lot of, let's say, restriction and fear and stuff around. But I also feel that on the positive side, there are more of us who are saying, but it doesn't have to be that way. And we need to, like you and I are doing, Helen, show people that it doesn't have to be that way.
So I agree with you 100%. And that's why I'm on the mission to do what I'm on the mission to do. Because we know, we don't think, we're not postulating, we're not guessing, we're not hoping. We know that something else is possible because we've personally experienced it and we've helped others find it. And so it's not about that. It's about the process of allowing, or of presenting the opportunity, the invitation for others to open the door and consider the possibility and then embrace their own true divine nature and the resonance that can come from. I don't need to explain it. I just need to have it be true. So tell us about more detail about the work you do. You know, I don't know if people want to follow you somewhere. How do they do that? How do they find more about the coolness of Rachel? They want to go swim in that. What do they do?
Well, they'd be very welcome to come and swim in my energy. I mainly can be found on LinkedIn these days, which would be Rachel Wayte, Wayte. My website is rachelwayte.com. And on there, you know, if they want to, if they've heard me and they've gone, do you know what? I'm ready to get unstuck. I'm ready to start making changes in my life. They can go on there and they can sample a whole session that's on there, 60 minutes long. It's called Unstoppable Energy. So that will really help people. It was created for almost like how I was feeling at that time when I was feeling stuck and lacking in any spark. This session there will help people really reignite their energy and reignite their spark. So that is there for anybody who's just like, okay, where can I begin? So those are the two ways people can connect with me. They can reach out through my website, through LinkedIn. I have a media page on there. If anybody wants for me to be on their podcast or speak or talk and they like what I've said, they can find that information on there as well.
So I want to ask you, you know, somebody might hear this and say, sort of with this skeptical attitude, yeah, whatever, some bunch of noise isn't going to change anything for me. And if you're feeling that, and I'm going to say something and then invite you to comment, Rachel.
Yeah.
If you're hearing that and you're feeling that, let me give you another possibility. Instead of saying, well, I'll go listen to 3 seconds, and if it doesn't drop gold bars on my porch, it's a bunch of crap. You could do that, and you're free to do that. And absolutely. I promise you, if you do that, nothing's going to happen. What I would invite you to do instead is say to yourself, what if there's a piece of truth here that I haven't discovered yet? And set yourself 10 or 15 minutes aside and just show up and participate with nothing else going on and your heart open just to see. Yeah. Because you can force, doctors say all the time, the people that want to get better are the ones that get better. And people that have a hateful or negative attitude to their own healing in hospitals don't. And so we know that's true. And so I would just invite you to, instead of fighting with it, think about what if. And that's what I wanted to say. And I want to invite you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, because those were as you were saying it, those were the words that were coming to me. What if this could open the door to something new, to a new potential, to a new way of living, to a new way of being for me. And even if you go in, that little door opened, it will begin to help you. And the other thing that I want to say is, just be open, because I came from a world where my father was a judge, my mum a nurse, two of the most beautiful, loving people I know. But there was, so I was brought up, believing that there wasn't much beyond what we can see. And so I wasn't brought up with energy, with sound, with any of this. And the only way, so when it came into my world, I was a bit like you, thinking your listeners by a bit skeptical. But the way it landed for me was, you know what? I felt it. I could suddenly feel energy. I could feel vibration, and it was making a change within me. And I thought, well, if this is helping me, I'm not making this up. This is real, if that makes sense. I just wanted to share that, because my own journey was also a skeptical journey, coming from quite a skeptical sort of family, a skeptical background, to going, let's be open-minded to this. Let's look a bit deeper into this. What does this look like? What could this possibly be? To then now seeing the ripple effect and the effect that it can have in people's lives in such a huge way. Why would I want to hold that back and not talk about it, and not offer people the opportunity to experience this and hope that it brings them change and relief?
I love that, because you're absolutely certain that it can. But all of us who do any kind of change work are also absolutely certain, with plenty of examples, that people that don't want to believe and don't want to change won't.
No, and it won't. And I could spend hours with that person. And if there's just a sort of like blanket, I mean, we may start chinking a little bits away, let's be honest, but generally, if there's like a blanket, this isn't going to work. I don't want to, like you, I think I might have heard you said this before, like, I'm not here to convince people, and I don't need to convince people, and I don't want to try and convince anybody.
No, you're offering a gift, and it's on me to say, what if this package has the key to my own misery in it?
Yeah.
And I invite you to consider it that way. Rachel, what didn't I ask you that you're dying to talk about that would be just super fun, and we get done and you say, oh, I should have said that?
Wow. The words just came to me was, everything we've talked about, it's been feeling like stuck, and it's helping people get out of things that are holding them back. But, let's also recognize that life can be joyful, and that's okay to have a joyful life, and to give ourselves permission to experience joyful things. I just had this vision of what I sometimes do when I am feeling like my energy is a bit low, or I just need to keep myself boosted. I get in cold water, I go in lakes, I get in the sea, I have cold showers, and that helps me stay grounded. It helps me stay aligned, and it helps me connect back to nature. It helps me to connect back to joy. So I think sometimes we also have to do things like that. We also have to recognize that if we can move our bodies, if we can exercise, if we can get out in nature, we can do things that slightly stretch us. Getting in the cold sea here in England in the middle of winter, it's freezing cold, but gosh, does it boost my energy. So I also think show people, even if you just do small things like that, exercise, running, walking, fresh air, listening to music, anything like that, that can also help shift your energy and bring you to a more joyful state.
And sometimes when we talk like that, people sort of think it's kind of weird, but I want to give you an example that every single one of you know about. If you're hungry, it's uncomfortable. If you go eat, that goes away. So if you feel sucky energetically or negative or angry, it's not weird that if you go eat, and I'm not talking about food now, I'm talking about if you go ingest something that is uplifting and powerful, or bracing, like jumping in the water, or whatever, It's just like eating. It will make it go away. It will give you a new thing. Just like if I go eat, I'm not hungry. So this is not like weird. We do this all the time. And to understand that there's many ways to eat, to feed your spirit, your soul, your heart, your purpose, and everything else.
Yeah, beautiful. And then when you do that, then you'll have more energy. And then actually, if you've been looking for clarity, you've been trying to work something out, you've been trying to work through something, you'll find that, oh, I've got more ideas now. I've got more energy. I've got more thought. You can think through ideas better, and solutions will come, and life just flows that bit better.
100%. So, Rachel, you've told us where we can find you.
Yes.
Is there anything else, final, thing or not?
No, do you know what? I think the final thing was what we were just saying about doing those little things to shift and change your energy. I feel complete. As long as you do, I feel complete.
It's perfect. So here's the thing. If you do nothing, you're going to stay right where you are because you've been down that road a million times. So isn't it time to do something new? Rachel, I want to thank you for your contribution today, for your heart, for your openness, sharing your story, encouragement, places to find you, and all that good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kellen. It's been great.
So listeners, I want you to take this seriously. You followed the journey. She was quite open with us and shared with us the process that she got to get to a place where she's fully expressive and uses that in the service of others. If you choose to do the same thing, you can bless, lift, and create your ultimate life.
Never hold back and you'll never ask why. Open your heart and this time around.
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to KellenFlukigerMedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, YourUltimateLife.ca. Subscribe, share.
Stand with your heart in the sky and your